morning, everybody. We are just want to acknowledge our sponsor for this morning's breakfast and cheer, Nancy Leff, who I just spoke to on the phone. She'll be here in a moment. Nancy Leff and family are sponsoring in memory of Nancy's beloved son, Adam Leff, Zichrono Livracha, Avram Yaakov, and Zerach Hillel Halevi, in commemoration of his third yahrzeit. If you knew Adam, you were really privileged to know a very special person who was selfless and dedicated and devoted to this community, to also the community in Fleetwood, where he was living, and also the Hebrew home in Riverdale, where he worked. Just an incredible person who, obviously his passing was very sudden and very painful. And we remember him on this day at his yahrzeit, his third yahrzeit. So these words of Torah will be dedicated to his elevation, his neshama. And so we have this right here. So here's what I want to learn with you today is we begin a new book of the Torah, the last book of the Torah, Parshat Devarim. I want to actually just look at the very first pasuk, and I want to look at, you don't have it on your sheet here, but there's a Rashi right at the beginning of that of the parsha. You need a sheet, more sheets? Of course. Maybe actually, just put these here. Put these one. I mean, just put the extra ones on the table here, and that way others can take. But the beginning of the parsha is worded very oddly. It's very odd. It says, Eila Dvarim, Asher Diber Moshe, this is source number 1 on the sheet. Eila Dvarim, Asher Diber Moshe al Kol Yisrael, Be'ever HaYarden. These are the words that Moshe spoke to all of Israel, to the Jewish people. Be'ever HaYarden, on the other side of the Yarden, meaning on the east side of the Jordan River. Ba'midbar, Ba'arava, Mol Suf, Bein Paran, Bein Tofel, V'lavan B'chaserot, V'di Zahav. Let me make a listing of all sorts of places here. The Midbar, the Arava, Mol Suf, it's like facing, the Suf, the Sea of Reeds. Bein Paran, Bein Tofel, between Paran and between Tofel, and Lavan and Chaserot, in a place called Diza. And we don't get an explanation of what's going on here. Like, the Torah doesn't go into, what all these places are representative of. Just tell me, as the Torah often does, as it often does in Sefer Yoshua, by the way, when I'm talking about things between the two sides of the river, just tell me that they were on the east side of the river and Moshe gave a speech. What's all these places? So what does Rashi say? Remember what the Rashi, looked over the Rashi this week? What does Rashi say about this? Right? It's bad things happen here, and Moshe Rabbeinu is giving them a shtickle, mussar here. But he didn't say it explicitly. What did he do? He mentions it in like a hinted way, because he didn't want to lay into the Jewish people, maybe they kavod on Shal Yisrael, because the Jewish people are this honorable people, so he doesn't want to lay into them, explicitly. But he mentions these places because in these places, things happen that were not okay. And he's reminding them. By the way, as Parshat Devarim continues, we'll see tomorrow when we're following on with the laning, he does mention certain other things that happen. He's going to talk about the incident of the spies. He's going to talk about the complaints that they had. He will talk about other things, but here are more things that went wrong that are being hinted to in these places that are, again, not going to be expounded upon in the Torah. And again, it's this hint towards something wrong, but not in your face. But here's the thing. So I want to look at the Sfas Emes. I want to give credit where credit is due also to my cousin, who is a rabbi in Los Angeles, who used these passages from the Sfas Emes in a shiur that he gave. They're very powerful. Take a look at source number 2. Okay? Sfas Emes quotes Rashi at the beginning here. It says in Rashi, it says, Hiskiran beremez mipnei kvodon shel Yisro Moshe Rabbeinu hinted towards the things that the Jewish people did wrong, and he didn't go in, explicit with them because of the honor of the Jewish people. And then he says, he quotes here, Upirshu, Moreinu Zal, and he's referring to his grandfather, the Chidushei Harim, who says here, La'ashir guf hachet, lo haya bazeh hador hachadash, rak shadayin haya nimtze remez hachataim, ki lo nitkan adayin kol hachataim hanizkar la'el. Chidushei Harim says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu not give it to them so explicitly? Because the actual sin that happened in these places along their journey, they didn't happen with this new generation. Remember, we're in year 40. Actually, what month? Actually, in the laning, what month are we in that last year? In year 40? Right. Shvat or? Right. I think it says in the 12th month. So I think we're in Adar at the beginning of Shvat. Did I get that wrong? You'll check me. Maybe it's Shvat.
It's 36 days.
It's 36. Fine. So we're in Shvat. We're right towards the end of his life here. As Dave said, he's going to pass on Zion Adar. So we're at the very end of his life. Good morning to Nancy. Good morning. How are you? Good morning to the family. Let's make sure to find them a seat. We were just getting started. So this was not talking about the new generation. These sins happened before. They weren't responsible for it. This was the old generation. The old timers, they had done things wrong. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to give it to them so hard because they weren't the ones who did it. They're the children of those who had committed these sins at these various places. And that's why he does it like this. But he still hints to it, as the Sfas Emes says, Nipsa remez hachataim. What was still left over in the next generation? There was a hint to these sins, a hint to the inappropriate way in which the previous generation had conducted itself. Maybe the lack of gratitude towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe they were not seeing the hand of Hashem. By the way, in that 40th year, that's when things went wrong also with the whole incident with the rock, Moshe with the rock, and they were up water. And there were still some hints of what the earlier generations' lack of faith, with the sin of the spies, the golden calf, there were still issues that remained. There was a hint of them, says the Sfas Emes, still in the generation below them. Let's continue here. Third line towards the end. Okay? Lachein hiskiran beremez. Therefore, it was mentioned in a way of hinting. Moshe didn't want to lay into them too much. They weren't fully responsible, but there was a hint left over of the mistakes of the previous generation. V'nira me'achar shekain kol Yisrael ki otan hachataim hayu pegam lechol adorot ad biat HaMashiach. And it would appear that afterwards, for all of the Jewish people, that these sins remained as a pagam. A pagam is a blemish. It's something that's a little bit wrong, right? And this would remain. The sins of the previous generation remain as a little bit of it's a ding for all the generations to come until the coming of Mashiach. Tikun gamur b'mehera b'yameinu, which will be an ultimate correction of everything to come speedily in our days. Therefore, we always have to do tshuva for the sins that happen in the midbar. Right? There's an interesting, fascinating statement in the Yerushalmi that any generation that doesn't, in which the Beis Hamikdash is not built, right? Dor she'ein Beis Hamikdash nivneh b'yamav ki'u nechra b'yamav. It's as if it were destroyed in this generation. What? What did I do to deserve being blamed for the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash? But that's what the Yerushalmi says. What does the Chazal mean with this? And he says, Mishum she'im hayu mitukanim kol hachataim sheba'avurav necherav. The The sins of the generation, the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, what was it destroyed for according to Chazal? Sinas China. Baseless hatred. We turned against the fellow Jew for no really good reason. We don't have to always agree. We can actually argue with people. We can actually not like them as our favorite person. But to hate people for no other reason, for really no good reasons, it's not okay. We don't have to be best friends. But the hatred, I mean, again, you know the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. I'm not going to go into it right now. But those sins of baseless hatred, according to what this Pshat, have never really been fixed. We've never fully, as people, we've never really fixed it, and therefore, the Beis Hamikdash is still in a status of destroyed because that sin it still permeates the Jewish people. Because if we had fixed it, miyad hayah nivneh, if we would fix it, we would fix the problem that caused the destruction, we would be zocheh to be able to have it back. V'chol shelo nivneh, right? Hochacha adayin lo nitkan achet. If it hasn't been rebuilt, it's proof. It's a hochacha. It's like a rebuke that we still haven't fixed this problem amongst the Jewish people. Maybe we've improved, but we haven't fully fixed it. V'niret lachein amru Chazal churban bayisheni chamur lan. That's why Chazal say the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash is more heavy on us. Mishum kishenivne bayis sheni hayatikun bechatayim hakodim shegarmu achorban. They had, when they read in the days of Ezra, when they built the second Beis Hamikdash, they had fixed the problem that was in the first Beis Hamikdash. What does Chazal attribute the first Beis Hamikdash destruction to? Avodah Zarah and? Right. Now, that, idol worship, is not something that, really, by the way, is so prevalent in our like, how many Jews go off the derech to worship idols, right? It's not the story we usually hear. And the idea is that in the second Beis Hamikdash, they had Ezra and that generation had fixed that problem of the idolatry. Right? And by the way, if you look at Navi, right, that was a huge problem for the Jewish people. They were worshiping through the generations idols in that first Beis Hamikdash period. And then how many times are the Nevi'im, scathing in their remarks about worshiping, foreign gods? But when you get to Ezra, it's not something that's being talked about. Aval hachataim. You're on the backside now. But the problems that caused the sins that caused the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, we should assume that we haven't fixed them. Right? That's why it's more chamor. That's why it's more serious to us, the sins of the second Beit HaMikdash. Now, so what we see from here is that our actions have a lasting effect. In this case, negative. Right? The Jewish people sin in the Midbar, and a lot of this came about through the difficulty of seeing God's hand in this in their world, not being able to respond appropriately in terms of when things are going badly. It's difficult. There's no water. There's food is a little. I'm tired of this. The way it was handled showed a lack of appreciation for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It showed a lack of faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he was there for us, right? That's a Parshat Beshalach, right? It says that when they fought the war against Amalek, right, it happened to them because they tested God. After they saw all what happened in Egypt, the plagues, the sea, they still couldn't. Is God here or is he not here? Is he with us or is he not with us? But they struggled with that. And the remnants of that, and the sin of the spies that they didn't believe they could overcome. Right? Kal said, what do you mean? We can. We have a Kodesh Baruch Hu on our side. They struggle with that. And those things resonate down to the next generation. Same thing with Bayesheni. Those things, Chazal teaching us, resonate down to the next generation. How we act affects the next generation. Don't think it doesn't last. Are they responsible for it? They're not responsible for it. But we are responsible for trying not to continue it. Now, this year is very down and depressing. So far, yes, you're right. But they want to also show you that it's the opposite is true as well. It's not just the negativity that we add trickles down, but it's actually, on the other hand, the other opposite direction is true as well. Take a look at the last source here on that back side, source number 3, Gimel, also from the Sfas, that's from next week's Parsha, Veschana. Excuse me. So, Moshe is talking to this generation here at the end, Parshat Veschana, and he's reviewing what happened. And that's why we'll have the Dibros again next week. Because he's reviewing what happened at Ma'amad Har Sinai. Okay? It's not like that. By the way, I always like to correct this. When the Luchos appear, when the Ten Commandments appear in Vaschana, it's not like, oh, this is the second time it was given, the second Luchos. Right. It's not that. It's Moshe Rabbeinu reviewing what happened at Har Sinai and Parshas Yisro. Right? Just keep that in mind. It's not like the second, this is like, oh, the second set of Luchos. This is just the reviewing of what happened, which makes the differences in between the Luchos, the way they're presented the first time, and the way they're presented the second time, much more tenable, because it's Moshe's review of what happened, right? And therefore, that's why you can look into things like Zachor v'Shamo, and there are differences like that. Because Moshe, this time, he snuck it in, he said this, because he actually said two things at the same time. Side point, but it's very important. I like to correct that because of a misconception there. So Moshe Rabbeinu is reviewing with them what happened in Har Sinai. And there in the Torah it says, Raki shamer lecha u'shmor nafshecha pen tishkach al advarim asher ra'u einecha. And he tells the Jewish people to be careful not to forget that which you witnessed at Har Sinai. But what's the problem? They weren't the ones who witnessed it. Maybe they were a little kinderlach when it happened. That's possible. The kinderlach didn't get punished by the Chet HaMeraglim. But there were many. Anyone who was under the age of 40, maybe 39, be careful, for sure wasn't that Har Sinai.
Somebody 39.
In the Midbar? Oh, I'm a little ahead of that. So. Almost there, by the way. They didn't see this. They weren't there. So how can he tell them? Don't forget what pen tishkach asher ra'u einecha, that your eyes saw. You didn't see it. They didn't see it. That generation died. The ones who were at Har Sinai, they got punished for the sin of the Meraglim. Anyone above the age of 20. How could he say your eyes saw it? So the Sfas Emes notes something very similar now, but now in the positive in next week's parsha. Take a look at source 3. Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom chazar me'erala oso ador ma'amad Har Sinai b'shleimus. He shows them, herala oso. He showed them a vision almost, or he made it clear to them what it was like at Ma'amad Har Sinai when they were at Har Sinai. In the complete story, b'shleimus. V'amar hadvarim asher ra'u einecha, and he tells them the things that you saw with your eyes. This is the new generation, says the Sfas Emes. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu, he gave them a rebuke, a hint of a rebuke for the things that happened in the previous generation. That, hey, you need to make sure you stop the things that you were habituated to seeing when you were kids. He gives them that reminder. Right? They could have been able to say, oh, Allah, we didn't. Where does that sound familiar from? Right? From the Vidui. Right? We actually, by the way, we include ourselves in it. Right? We could try to say that we never sinned. But anachnu va'avotenu chatanu. Why do we mention avotenu? Why are we schlepping our parents into this? What do they ever do to us that we have to by the way, mom and dad also sinned. Not just me. Why? Because the things that we see in the previous generation, they trickle down. And that becomes something we have to work on. And he says here, Lachen, beirachotam mikablei tochachot kemochem v'chulei ayin sham. So he gives them a bracha, right? Beirachotam, those who accepted the tochacha previously, the rebuke, he gives them a bracha here in the opposite direction. There are things that you didn't see that your parents probably taught you about. They probably described the lightning and thunder, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu's voice, whatever that could mean, don't forget that either. Let that trickle down. Like let that stay with you. Let that be collate. Let that sit with you. What a reward it is for them that they merited to be the hisoru shel kabbalah, to be like awakened, right, by the acceptance of the Torah. Ki kfima shetiknu chet dor hamidbar kein zachu lezechios shel dor hamidbar. If we're gonna schlep upon you the things that the previous generation did and tell you, here's what you need to change. Don't let it continue. You're responsible for that. Once it's your generation, you're responsible to change the things that you saw that are not appropriate from the previous generation. Make those corrections. So too, but same token, the things that you saw from the previous generation, they accrue to you as merits. Even though you didn't do them, you weren't necessarily there. But the hint of those things resonates with you. We all know that when we're raised by our parents, our grandparents, their stories, their personality, what we see, what we witness when we're kids, or we're not born as before, we know the stories, they resonate with us. I am a grandchild of Holocaust survivors, 4 grandparents who all survived the Holocaust, who lost their families. On my mom's side, my grandparents, previous marriages with children, everyone was gone. And yet, right? And there are stories of perseverance, of being resolute, that we're going to continue forward. Don't think it doesn't affect the grandchild. That when you know those stories, they profoundly change you, right? For the positive, right? And if there are things that have happened in the past in a family that are challenging, and we see things that was not good role modeling, right? That also can be hard to move out from underneath that so easily. And so that's why there's a tochacha, and next week there's going to be a sort of a bracha given. Don't forget what you saw, even though you didn't see it yourself. V'chein hu b'chol hadoros. Here comes the message, right? From the Sfas Emes. V'chein hu b'chol hadoros shetzrichim l'takin chataim hakodmim v'al yidei zeh zochin lezechiot hakodmim. We have to fix what was not good in the past, but we also merit to take on and continue forward with the good that we inherit from the past. And this is obviously a very important message as we head into Tisha B'Av. We remember the calamities that befell our people, and we think about what caused them, what led to them, but also we remember that in a lot of these calamities, there was so much heroism, so much positivity that we are going to emerge out of it. Even the book of Eicha ends in a very positive way. That we shall return, Hashem, return to us and we will return to you, right? Like the days of old, because we there's this positivity that gets passed down too. It's this characteristic, this trait that has helped us as a people thrive and survive through most horrific things. I just want to make one last connection here. As we're marking Adam's yard site, it's today, right? Tomorrow, right? It was Erev Tisha B'Av, right? This is the Levi was on Tisha B'Av, right? That I remember. Adam Leff, who very few people are zocha to be buried with a Sefer Torah. Adam Leff was buried with a Sefer Torah, because what a kind of great tzaddik that he was. And this, to me, when I was preparing this, it very much resonated with Adam, because he did so much good. He did, by the way, there were so many times, first of all, he was a big minyan goer. So he always helped make the minyan. By the way, here in the winter time, he was living down in Mount Vernon, Fleetwood. He'd come make the minyan here because, in the winter time, when we had minyan at 4:20, 4:25, before the days of COVID, right, when we started working a little more locally, our minyan was we were 9, 10. One person made all the difference. And Adam made sure, he was I'm going to come. I want to help make the minyan. Adam made sure in the Hebrew home to help put tefillin on for residents there who wouldn't be able to do that on their own. He was just someone who was grateful. He'd come to the shir, he'd be so thankful. It was like I had done some exceedingly great mitzvah. I read the words of the Perushim. That type of Roshim impression that he made on everyone that he knew. It's something that trickles down to the next generation. The good continues to permeate into forward. And I certainly think about all those things I mentioned and more about Adam. What a tremendous loss Adam's passing was for our community, for the family, for everybody that really knew him. And his zechuyot that were in this world, and again, it was zochet iver, the Sefer Torah. It was not just for any reason. It's because of what a special person he was. His merit should continue to accrue for him, and it should continue to accrue for Bnei Yisrael, the next generation. All those people that were touched, they should take what he taught them and continue to pass those things on to their children, to their grandchildren. Wow, this wonderful person who I saw helping my Bubby, my Zaidi in the Hebrew home. Great. Those things are going to get continued to the next generation, and that's all because of the zechuyot of Adam Lev Zichrono Libracha. Shabbat Shalom. Kaddish, right? Anyone saying Kaddish to Rabbana? No? Yes? Kaddish? Anyone saying Kaddish? No? Okay. We'll leave it. Oh, you're saying Kaddish? No, you're not saying Kaddish. Walk finished, right? Okay. Have a wonderful Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos.
Okay.
Yes, well.
Yes.
Sign the bread. Sign the bread. Elohim shalom shalom. Elohim shalom shalom.
God was
Amen.